Minutes late. I do apologize. We had a workshop that ran a little bit late. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I'd like to let you know that you have a couple opportunities to participate. You can speak. We're going to have two citizens to be heard sections, one at the beginning, one at the end. You can speak at either or. And also on the agenda, you're welcome to fill out a speaker card and speak on each individual item. But please fill out a speaker card and give it to Paige for any items that you would like to speak on. Let's see. At this point, I'd like to ask Commissioner Harden to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Let us pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this day and all the many ways, Lord, you bless us and watch over us. And thank you, Lord, for your goodness and mercy. And I just thank you, as always, Lord, for the opportunity to be here and serve our community. And ask you, as we go throughout the county's business, that you would lead and guide us and direct us, Lord, that we should guide the county in the direction you would have us to go. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Commissioner Thomas, Chairman. Yes, I would like consent agenda 8 pulled, and I would like to also make a statement either here or before citizens to be heard at your pleasure.
During awards and presentation?
Before citizens to be heard.
Is that acceptable, County Attorney?
You want to
Make a statement.
during?
Prior to citizens being heard.
I mean,
That's
I
up
think
to
it.
the board,
I think it should probably be done during awards and presentation. If
No,
it's just
it's not an award. Well, I'll say it right now, if I might. You know, there are several people here tonight dealing with an issue that I'm hearing, thinking that I somehow denigrated law enforcement. I encourage anyone that thinks so to contact me or the county, and we will happily send you a link of what was said. My presentation.
No, sir.
My presentation.
Yes, sir.
Stand by. We still have to approve our agenda.
My presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask that
Excuse me. My presentation.
Hang on. We're getting out of control here. Let's move forward. At this point, let's approve the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Well, I have consent agenda number 8, and I don't think it was appropriate for people from the audience to direct this meeting. And I encourage people, if they have not heard the presentation, to do so, because there was nothing that I said against law enforcement.
Move approval of the agenda.
Hold on.
We have a motion to pull item number 8.
Also, we'd like to table item number 5, please.
Table number 5. Any other changes to the agenda?
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Now we'll start with citizens to be heard. Is it, Paige?
Mr. Chairman, I also would like you to remind the citizens that during this section, the commissioners are not allowed to interact or address the citizens.
Absolutely, and we've got a lot of people here tonight, so in the interest of efficiency, we're going to hold it to 3 minutes. Please help us to stay on target with that. Mr. Will Dance.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I thank you for the time. I'll keep it brief. Yes, Mr. Kessler, there are some here in this audience who take measure with your presentation that you gave on the 18th, and I'll tell you why. First of all, your statistics were wrong. More people are shot by law enforcement than the number that you gave. It's about 800 a year. 400 of them don't die, and 400 of them are cleared during a court process. They're not prosecuted, and it's considered justifiable homicide. Another statistic that you failed to mention is how many people die on an operating table, sir. Have you considered maybe another profession might want to wear a camera wherever they go? But on the note of cameras, you brought that up, which is astounding to me, because you believe that there's this epidemic that's going on in this country of young men of color being gunned down by law enforcement, and the facts are not true, especially here in Wakulla County, especially in any county that surrounds us. We have a relationship with our law enforcement that may be different than other places. We eat breakfast with our sheriff. We play baseball with our major's kids. We go to pool parties and go skiing at the beach. We don't have this adversarial relationship with law enforcement that somehow you're trying to create. And that whole idea that you believe that we should get back to officer friendly, you're right on, sir. But let's look at the root of the problem. It's not officers going out and gunning down innocent people. Let's have a real conversation, shall we? We live in a fatherless society. We live in a godless society. And that's across all races, sir. All races. Violence is perpetuated because kids have no role models. And we're debating 10% to sink in a wreck. You ought to put 50% in a wreck. Give these kids something around here to do. You want to solve the problem, let's get to the root of the problem, sir. The root of the problem is not a bunch of angry cops gunning down people. These men and women strap on a gun, a uniform, and a badge. They say goodbye to their families. 402 people's name on this flag of honor, which flies in my studio every day, were heroes. They ran into a building to save people that they did not even know. And they didn't come out. Let's put the focus where it needs to be. Better education, not Common Core. Mentoring our children, teaching them officer-friendly, teaching them to respect law enforcement. Let's look at the other real problem. Let's have the conversation. There's a book out right now by a retired lieutenant colonel that says stop teaching our children to kill. We're desensitizing our children every day that violence is acceptable, especially against law enforcement. Law enforcement have a thankless, underpaid job. And so do our firefighters. And let me get on that topic. Give them collective bargaining. Let them fight for their money. Let them fight for their dollars. I think the sheriff's office ought to have it too. I think y'all ought to have to justify every dollar you don't give them. They're the reason we sleep every night.
Thank you, Mr. Dance.
One more thing. That bracelet you got, sir, and you all got one. Mr. Moore, I apologize I didn't get used to you earlier. They were all worn by Leon County deputies. All of them were served with Chris Smith. And the young lady who was off from a car wreck on workers' comp, he was working her shift box that day. And she wanted me to give that to you.
Thank
so
you.
I hope you'll wear it with honor.
Thank you. Mr. Larry Roberts.
Robert Sockchoppy, I got a presentation to give. I'll obviously be deviating from it, and I'll try to get most of it in. To begin with, Howard Kessler is the most conservative, physically conservative person we've ever had on this board. Those who indicate otherwise, and there are signs out front that says communist and various and sundry things, but these people are apparently ignorant of his record. Ms. Eva made it clear in her article this past whatever newspaper, Thursday, I guess, that Dr. Kessler did not state or imply that most law enforcement people did not meet the expected standard. A few comments on what you just heard. I wonder if I had a flag in my hand, I would be more credible. Dr. Kessler did not mention color, I don't think, in his presentation, nor Common Core, nor a lot of other things. Okay, now I'll skip around a little bit here, try to get most of it in. Anyway, last board meeting, Ms. Zima and Ms. Barnes both addressed Dr. Kessler's presentation in last week's Wakulla News. I was not at the previous meeting, but I'm confident that both of those ladies got it right. Those who haven't read those writings should. I don't know how Commissioner Hardin arrived at his stated position, because it didn't jive with anything that Ms. Zima said. I'm disappointed at Commissioner Hardin also. And Ms. Barnes addressed that in her letter to the editor. Commissioner Moore has always displayed a dislike for Dr. Kessler and has never failed to take advantage of an opportunity to insult Dr. Kessler. This will undoubtedly continue. Will Dance spoke at length about Dr. Kessler's presentation on his radio program this past Thursday. Mr. Dance was critical of Dr. Kessler and had praise for Sheriff Creel, Major Morrison, and Commissioner Moore. I don't believe that Mr. Dance do believe that Mr. Dance demonstrated bias throughout his program, and that his praises and his criticisms were both misdirected. I don't know why Mr. Dance was so critical of Dr. Kessler. Is he so naive as to believe that all law enforcement officers are totally unbiased, altruistic public servants? I think not. Is he carrying the water for Sheriff Creel and or Commissioner Moore? Perhaps. Regardless of what might be said, there is a rift that exists between the Sheriff's Office and the people. I believe this disconnect is due to an absence of leadership within the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next, Mr. Steve Cushman.
I'll finish up. If we're going to wave the flag and talk about firemen and...
I think your time's up.
Thank you. Gentlemen.
Hey. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Hey,
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts. You left the podium, and I called the next speaker.
Okay, you could tell me that. He can't.
Thank you,
and
sir.
I would appreciate it if it's noted he duly assaulted me here.
We appreciate your comments. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Again, obviously Larry Roberts is delusional like he was when he filed the FEC complaint against me, where it was found that legally insufficient was the term. I just want to kind of follow up on Will Dance. I've watched the presentation a couple times. And, you know, it goes back to that same thing I've always said, is this is a BoCC business meeting. If someone has a need for a policy to be formed or something to go on with body cameras, there's an open door at the Sheriff's Department. I was in it this morning. That's the place to go handle those kind of issues. The only thing I see with your presentation is not one man or woman's name was mentioned that's a fallen officer in this country. You went on about a 12-year-old kid getting shot, which I have sympathy for that child, and we need not discuss the reason that he's dead right now. You mentioned a guy that was running from law enforcement when he was pulled over. Why run? But not once did you mention the name of anybody that's given their life in the line of duty in this country. You mentioned a statistic, one every 58 minutes. But where's the fairness in your presentation when you're biased to one side? You want sympathy from voters so you can win the next election? Because that's all I saw out of the thing. Just be fair. If you're going to present both sides. Talk about names. List some names. Give us something. Don't just try to pull sympathy from one side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Johnson.
Thank you, sir. I just want to reiterate what I said the other night in this meeting. I've got a long history at law enforcement. I didn't see nothing in this presentation that was bashing law enforcement. I don't understand why somebody else did. But my thing is, Will Dance brought up some issues that do need to be addressed. I mean, those are some of the problems with crime, different problems we're having in the communities. Those are issues. And like you said, Mr. Herndon, there probably is 1% of the officers that are crossing the line out there. But that 1% is devastating to a community when they do cross that line. I think Mr. Kessler was trying to bring, it may not have been the right appropriate time, I don't know, but I think he was just trying to bring attention to a problem that we have. Like I said, I'm law enforcement, all my family is law enforcement, and I just don't see anything he did wrong. I think we need to bring attention to the problem that we have out there, and like I said, praises to all of law enforcement that do good. I work with these guys, all of them are good officers. The guys I know are good officers. I ran across bad officers, but all it takes is one bad officer, you know. And for somebody to bring up that issue and want to try to talk about it and talk about solutions, and to have other people come in and criticize that person, that's a person that don't want change, don't want nothing to change, don't want positive change, as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, all my family's law enforcement. I don't feel he bashed us. I don't feel he talked against us. I don't feel that he was in here degrading law enforcement. Yeah, he may not brought up names. He didn't bring up the names of the people that were killed out there either. And a lot of those, some of those were justified. Them killings were justified. You know, there was some of them that wasn't justified, and the officers falsified documents to cover up the crime they had committed. if any one of us citizens in this room commit a crime, I'm not law enforcement anymore, but if I commit a crime, I'm going to jail for it. If you got a bad officer out there to commit a crime, he needs to go to jail. You know, that's the bottom line. And we can sit here and pros and cons and for and against and all this here. Bottom line is, we have a few bad officers out there committing crimes, and it needs to be brought, I mean, the attention, we need to focus attention on that. Like I said, it don't, you know, you can do all the right you want, but it don't take but one bad apple to cause this kind of issue right here. You know, so, again, I thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Kessler.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Anjanita Rozier.
Good evening. I'm Anjanita Rozier, and I'm the president of the Wakulla NAACP branch. I attended the last board meeting, and I was able to hear Commissioner Kessler's presentation. I paid very close attention to his presentation, to the PowerPoint, and to the points that he made regarding innocent lives around the country who have been lost at the hands of law enforcement. I applaud Commissioner Kessler for being courageous enough to step up and call local attention to a national problem. I think all too often, many folks would rather spend time trying to cast down the messenger and totally miss out on the message. I did not feel that his presentation was aimed nor intended to bash law enforcement in any kind of way. In fact, he reiterated that several times throughout his presentation. What disturbs me the most is the fact that Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Harden both failed to acknowledge the main focus of Commissioner Kessler's presentation, the fact that innocent lives were lost, mainly minorities. Commissioner Moore, if you were appalled to have to listen at the comments and the presentation that Commissioner Kessler brought forth that were based on facts, how would you feel if the roles were reversed and a lot of the killings were innocent Caucasian children, teenagers, and men that were being gunned down by black officers? If this were the case, would you still feel the same way? A life is a life. All lives matter, regardless of colors. Folks, I think it's time that we stop turning a blind eye to problems of race relations in this country and in this county. Right now, these problems are happening in states, in cities and states like Ferguson, Missouri, and other states. However, they seem far away from Wakulla County. When the problem shows up, what are we prepared to do when the problems show up on the front doorsteps of this county? Ignoring the facts will not make the issues go away. Avoiding the conversation does not mean that there isn't a problem that exists with race relations. Thank you, Commissioner Kessler, for your presentation and for recognizing the need to raise local awareness to a national issue. In closing, Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Harden, I will leave you with this thought. Always remember, if you are not a part of the solution, you could very well be part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rozier. That ends our Citizens to be Heard section, and we will go into awards and presentation. We'll start out with Mr. Jim McShane with Career Source Capital Region.
Thank you, Commissioners. I plan to do this on once or twice a year. I'm with Career Source Capital Region. I'm the CEO of that. And I don't know, are we putting up the PowerPoint?
I'll have to just change the slide.
Okay.
And if I could ask you, we're going to try to keep the presentation to around 5 minutes or so.
I make it under that. I made it under that in Leon, so I'm fine. So, who we are and what we do, obviously, we're the local workforce board, Gadsden, Leon, and Wakulla counties. Okay, great. There we go. Sorry. Okay, got it. So, our charge and our mission is really to help people get jobs and at the same time work with our business community and providing opportunities to our local folks. Our mission, the Florida workforce system connects employers with qualified and skilled talent and with career development opportunities. But we also now call on businesses in order to make sure that we're meeting the business needs of the community. And we had a very successful job fair here just a couple weeks ago. Our vision for our system is that we will be the global leader of talent, and that's a pretty awesome statement, but that's what our system is trying to do. There are 24 workforce boards in the state of Florida, and our values are business-driven, continuous improvement, integrity in what we do, talent-focused, and purpose-driven. These are the top jobs right now in our region, so that you get a sense of where the demand is. That is something that we always look at and our board looks at, because we cannot spend federal money on training for jobs that don't exist. We have to spend it on jobs that are available, and that's what we do. Our top 10 employers in the area that are posted in the last month. It's obvious that healthcare is a major employer, so are our universities, and so are some of our other businesses in the area. This is the one I want you to really look at. So this is our report to you, our operations report. We've served 1,965 businesses from July 1 of last year to March 31st of this year. We've trained 458 job seekers for employment. We have placed 6,623 in jobs. Service job seekers, so these are services, and we have multiple services that we give them when they come into our one-stop, which is located here in the Centennial Bank building on the TCC side. We're partners with TCC. Number of services to the businesses, 15,213. That can be a whole lot of different things, helping them post jobs, reviewing their job postings, how to help them find the people that they're looking for. Financial assistance, and these are supportive services, are 329,379. And then finally, the bottom number is the one I want you to see, because for a $5 million investment, a little under that with the federal funds that we get, we have produced and put into the community $116,137,356 in that time frame. So as you can see, we are something that gives you a return on investment, about 22%. This is how we're structured, just so if you're not aware of how we're structured. The governor is the ultimate decider in the workforce areas. CareerSource Florida is our oversight board, that is policy board making for the state. Department of Economic Opportunity is who we report financially to and comes out and performs audits. And then our chief elected officials, Jerry Moore is our elected official here. We have one in each of the 3 counties. And then our workforce boards. And we have nearly 100 career centers in the region. So what I'm asking you to consider is, number 1, our interlocal agreement. We used to be Workforce Plus. We no longer are, so we need to change that agreement to our new name. Our new Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act was passed by the Congress in 2014. It starts in July 1st. Duties and responsibilities, pretty much the same. We expect more action and dialogue with our county commissioners, and that started with them participating with our executive committee at the last meeting about a couple weeks ago. Duties of the board the counties are the same, to approve business leaders to the board. The board seats split the same way, Leon 7, Gadsden 3, and Wakulla 2, based on population. Intent of the new law is to keep the board small, and we're going to go from probably 23 down to 19. And the counties are ultimately responsible for disallowed costs, which is part of the federal law. And did I get under 5 minutes? I'm open for questions by the county commissions.
I'd like to start out by thanking you for the job fair. Very successful event. I guess
It
that's
was
the
great.
first one that's ever been held, and very
gonna
good
do-
turnout on both sides, employers and employees.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
200 job seekers came through on that day. That was excellent.
Thank you.
And that county, that building is beautiful. So, wonderful place.
So the figure of the $1 million in wages,
Yes. That's wages generated back from people who were unemployed and became employed.
in the region?
In the
that
region,
you-
the 3-county
that's right.
region, that is correct.
And so that's spectacular.
It is. I'm proud of what our staff does and what they do every day with helping people. and we serve veterans, we serve every person. We're a universal service system. That's what changed under the old workforce law. Before that it was called JTPA, but it's now changed to where we're really focused on business, and we have placed people in president's positions. We're looking for an engineer right now for a client. We are looking for all sorts of folks. So anybody that's looking for a job, come to our career center that's sitting over at TCC's building in the Centennial Bank.
Randy's an engineer.
I don't want a job,
Would you
though.
possibly
You don't want to work.
Any further comments?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mr. McShane.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll invite Mr. John Sewell with Kimley Horn.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Sewell, Kimley Horn and Associates. We're out of Tallahassee. Pleased to be here tonight. We want to give you a very brief update on the Capital City to Sea Trails project. This thing, as you all know, started a couple of years back. Your citizens were involved in the development of the master plan. The master plan was adopted. You all adopted that. The number one ranked project coming out of that master plan, in addition to the other 120 some odd miles of bike trail, was the what we're now calling the Coastal Trail, which is the trail section that will go along US 98 between County Road 59, takes you into the refuge, all the way down to Lighthouse Road to Ocklackney Bay Surf Road. So we are currently putting the finishing touches on the environmental study, what we call the Project Development and Environment Study. That study is concluding here in the latter part of June. As a part of this, what we're going to do, although not required, we're actually going to hold a public meeting. It's going to be on June 23rd. It's a Tuesday from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. and it's going to be at the Wakulla Senior Citizens Center, where we're just going to have an open house. We'll have maps, talk about the project, basically just answer any questions that the public might have. Just as information, the project will, the Coastal Trail segment will actually be constructed in DOT right-of-way, and we are going to be notifying property owners out there where we're going to be building the trail in front of their property, where their driveway might be, or those types of things. So we're actually going to reach out to those property owners just to make sure they're informed and in the loop about the project. There is a considerable amount of right-of-way out there, generally speaking, for this first segment. The first segment is going to be from Woodville Highway, where the existing St. Mark's Trail is, over to 319. That will be the first segment constructed. This segment is actually in design. The DOT has taken the lead on the design, and that will start. That project is actually kicking off on July 1. So the design and then construction will happen here fairly shortly. We're actually working for the CRTPA to conduct this environmental study, and like I said, we're putting the finishing touches on it. It will move to design and then into construction here fairly shortly. But the project that I laid out from Woodville Highway over to 319 is a funded project.
What's the dollar amount, you know, John?
Total on that, Jack? $5.6 million. So
Spent down here.
being spent right here in Wakulla County. You're going to have a need for some contractors. I know Ocklackney Bay Trail.
Lockney.
Thank you. Lockney Trail, when that was built, I know some of your local contractors actually built the boardwalks, did the clearing and the grubbing. So yeah, it's, you know, economic development. I would also suggest that once this thing is built and on the ground, you're probably going to see a lot of users out there. And who knows, maybe Wakulla County will get their first bike shop or outfitter to kind of take advantage of that business opportunity here in the future. I know you got a bunch of cyclists down here, so.
This will be good for the safety of our children too, because then I can run down this
on their track practice to the rec park instead of having to run down the side of the road.
100%
Our children.
on that, yeah, and that's a really good point. It's connecting a lot of real key points along the way. It's connecting Panacea to MedArt, to the Bay. It's connecting the high school to the park. So we just see this as a really huge benefit to the county, and like I say, it was a very highly ranked project and one that I think the citizens here in Wakulla County will enjoy for a long time. And we're just, very pleased to be a part of it and work with you all on this. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you all have, and hopefully we'll see some of you at the public meeting on the 23rd of June.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I have a question, and I talked with David about it today. I know David, every time I speak, David hides underneath the desk. But anyway, I had a citizen, and I tend to agree with the citizen, who brought up the subject from Panacea to what we call Obey. You're going down by, actually you're going down 98 by Beautiful Marsh. It's one of the prettiest marshes that we have in the county, alongside from Panacea down to Obey. When people travel that road, it's just a natural view looking to the east, southeast, and so forth. This citizen mentioned that, and since it's funded only to 319, that may take 5 years to develop. If it's like the other trail, it may take 10. But anyway, since it's funded to 319, and the funding is not there from Panacea on down, this citizen mentioned that it would be good to possibly relocate it down by way of the airport. Take it out at the airport, just make a turn and go over to Surf Road. At some point in time, quite possibly, we will get state money to do the airport. There will be access beside that airport, most likely. I'm sure it probably could be accomplished. So you could leave that marsh, which is part of our beauty of our county. You could leave that pretty much untouched. It would probably not cost you as much, because when you go down the side of that 319, you're going to have to get out into the marsh to do your travel, in my opinion, maybe. But it's something I would like to see you possibly consider, because, Mr. David, we have not built that airport yet, and there's no reason to think that possibly this trail could not go down beside the airport to Surf Road.
You're still going to affect the marsh, so yes.
Good points for future discussion.
That's right, but it is a good point for future discussion, and John's going to have...
I would just suggest it is a possibility, and that should be taken up when design moves forward.
Very
I'll
good.
have some of these flyers I'll leave out at the table outside.
Mr.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, John.
One minute, please.
Commissioner?
Hey, John. So I'm just going to make a few comments on, when you began, you said it was a couple of years back, and
10 years back, right?
it was probably more like 13 or 14 years
Yeah.
back. And
The original vision for it.
and it was a group of citizens, along with a person from an agency, one of our state agencies, that had this idea, and it was early on when I first came to this county. And Tree Posey, Bonnie Hollub, it was a eclectic group of people that had this vision. Not all of them were on the same page. Some of them said, we don't need these people in lycra pants coming down pedaling through Wakulla County. But the majority saw the vision, and with the help of the granting agency and the persistence of citizens in Wakulla County to stick with it, with the help of the CRTPA, with the help of consultants like you, with the help of persons like Robert Seidler, and with the help of Commissioner Merritt, continuing with the work of this trail system, it's grown way more than those of us in the room could ever have expected. We thought it would have been magnificent to do that stretch along Surf Road, Mashes Sands, and then it became, as you know, we developed it into even more with the Capital City to the Sea Loop, But now with all of the crisscrosses that are going to be there, we know that the economy of our county will be affected as relates to the length of our bike path. The longer the path, the more people will come to spend a weekend, to spend a long weekend or longer and recreate in our community. So I thank all of the people that were involved in this process. This was a great effort.
Yeah, we agree.
And
100%.
Harry made a comment to DOT about 319, about trying to get a...
I thought I saw Harry here this.
He's right there, he's hiding behind
Oh,
John.
I was going to mention you and I'd forgotten. You know, we were sitting on the other side of the room. Yeah, Harry, actually, and congratulations on your soon-to-be retirement.
And he
Further
made
comments,
he made a comment to DOT about requesting they build a shared use path along 319 when they four-lane it, which will happen soon.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Sewell. We
Appreciate it.
Appreciate the update. Next, we're going to ask Miss Joanne Palmer with Keep Wakulla County Beautiful.
Thank you. I'm Joanne Palmer with Keep Wakulla County Beautiful. I want to thank the board for your support of Keep Wakulla County Beautiful. We couldn't do what we do without your support and our OTC, as I tell everybody. To date, Keep Wakulla County Beautiful has returned to the county $38 an hour for every dollar that the county has supported us. So we hope that we can continue that rate of making sure we offset things that go on in this county with litter. And I want to announce that on June 11th and 12th, Keep Wakulla County Beautiful is hosting the statewide meeting of Keep Florida Beautiful here in Wakulla County. They came because I convinced them it was the best place in the state of Florida to come. So we'll have about 75 people who are bringing their families and staying a long weekend. They have filled up the Best Western, and we invite all 5 of you, the commissioners, to come to the reception on June the 11th. And I would like to point out that the president and CEO of Keep America Beautiful will be here for this meeting. That's the most well-known nonprofit on the planet. So we're excited about that. Now, no littering. Back last year, the commission passed an ordinance, a new ordinance for Wakulla County that imposes a fine of $100 minimum for littering. I got a grant from the Department of Transportation and am proud to show you the new no litter signs. We have been able to purchase 85 of these. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you know how expensive signs are. So with the help of Brent and Cleve, we should be erecting these next, by the end of the month. We're going to have a rollout campaign. So we're going to have a rollout campaign to get these put up. And we're asking for suggestions from citizens. They have to go on county roads. So if you know of a road that you think that you know the litter is a problem, please email me, and we're taking suggestions for where to put these signs. And of course, I'll work with the road department. They're going to help us out. And these bottles are courtesy of Keep Florida Beautiful. They're the ones that are having this, that are coming to our meeting. So, any questions?
When was the time of that meeting that you're having for the...
It's a reception Thursday night at Wakulla's Lodge, and then it's from 9 to 4 on Friday.
Okay.
And we also have the International Coastal Cleanup Director coming from Texas.
June 11th, right?
You don't need any of those in Smith Creek. Nobody litters out there.
On your road, I'm putting one, right? June the 12th.
12th.
All day the 12th.
June the 12th?
Right.
12th.
The reception is the 11th, starting the 11th, and then the meeting is all day June 12th.
Okay, I got you.
Right.
Reception.
Any questions?
I want to thank you with all your efforts and what you do with Keep Wakulla County Beautiful, and
Thank
for
you.
motivating and the mobilizing and doing everything you can. I just appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you very much.
You can put about 6 of those in Leon County before they get here.
6 and you know, we can put them on county roads. That's all, though. But send us your suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's our last award.
I'll move consent.
All right.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Table number 5. Howard, you requested to pull number 8.
This is an item that deals with basically putting our Wakulla County code ordinances in sync with what's happened at the state level. But at the same time that we're doing this, we really should be thinking about ways that people actually end up paying their fair share, because as we go along with the state, there's less ability for the county to make new development pay for itself. And so I would urge the board again to consider impact fees.
Heather, David, this is exactly what I talked about earlier today. Mine's not an impact fee, but a mobility fee to get rid of traffic concurrency. This is really, I mean, don't take this the wrong way. I think this is a joke. Nobody's ever going to pay this. I think we all realize that. So if we talked about this today, I think you're going to, in your budget, look at it, because we have to pay for the study, but I strongly support a mobility fee to get rid of the requirement for traffic concurrency.
Yeah, we need something, and I totally agree with your brief synopsis of it being a joke, because the way this is worded, we're at the short end of the stick.
Nobody's going to tell a Walmart or a Publix, no, you're not coming because you need a 4-lane 319. That's just not going to happen.
All right. Do we have a motion on item 8?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any citizens? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We have no general business. Public hearing, tab number 10. Holy cow.
Yes, Commissioner, this is to request board approval to conduct the first of 2 public hearings and authorize staff to begin preparation of a small city CDBG grant application pursuant to the federal CDBG program requirements in preparation for the 2014 grant cycle, funded through the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity in the amount of $750,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And David, before the citizens, if you would, Ralph, could you kind of explain the parameters of this grant? I think there's some confusion. What it can be used for and what it cannot be used for.
The CDBG grant, you have a couple of
Community
different tiers.
Development Block Grant.
Community Development Block Grant. You have a couple of different alternate. You can either, there's a economic development CDBG grant that can be used for building a new business, someone wanting to start a new business and come to this county and say, hey, I want to start this business, and it meets all of the LMI, which is the
low to moderate
income. It fits that area, then that can qualify, but it'll be up to the county as to whether to go in business with that, as that is the county taxpayers are on the hook for that.
As far as I know, the only one of those we've ever had is Buckhorn Creek.
That's
is
right,
that correct?
which failed. And luckily, due to the recession, the state rescinded that. But if it hadn't been a recession, the county would have had paid all of that back.
The taxpayers would have been holding the bag.
All right. The other is an infrastructure. You have your infrastructure CDBG, which you can only have. You have your infrastructure CDBG, which is for sewer, water, roads, etc. What also combined in that is there's a bunch of different factors, but anyway, your LMI, your low to moderate income, you have to pass that test first.
It has to benefit low to moderate income.
It has to benefit low to
families.
moderate income. So that also, you have to have the ability to hook up sewer customers. Also, the county has to realize we go in this thing, it's not free.
In other words, it has to be a start to finish project.
Right. CDBG is not free.
When you're done.
That's right. CDBG, you have to risk money, and up to $75,000 is the minimum. You have to risk that money with the plan. All right. Then there's no guarantee you're going to get it. So you have to do your demographics. You got to draft your plan up. You got to get it permitted.
You have to pay an engineer to make a set of plans for sewer.
So you got to feel pretty darn certain you're going to get it, or if not, you just spend a lot of taxpayer dollars on nothing. Okay, so that's what we did this year. Is looking at the CDBG, our number one funding need as of right now, and also board direction, was to try to fund our firehouse.
which is the main firehouse for the county fire and EMS facility, that'll be located at Trice Lane. So what we did is we hired a consultant, Fred Fox, who is probably the best in the state of Florida and is known for getting CDBG grants. We hired Fred to come in and look at what our plans were, look at the area to be served, and tell us the process and lead us through the process so we can apply for it, because it takes anywhere between 3 to 4 months to do all of the legwork. Then you can move forward. But what we did is he looked at the demographics of where we were going to put it and realized this took some time, because it wasn't just go out and look. It's from September to January. Looked at that and basically came back to us and said, hey, we can move forward with this thing, but your demographics are very iffy. I don't think I can make it work from a demographic.
Not enough low to moderate income people
That's right.
being
So
benefited.
at that point in time, I made the decision, hey, I'm not going to put $75,000 worth of taxpayers' money at risk because if I draft these plans and I don't get the CDBG grant and I'm going in knowing that my demographics ain't going to match, I've just wasted $75,000 technically, because every year you got to re-update plans. So that's where in February we said, we can't do it. We're not going to be able to go down that trail. So that's the reason we punted. And also our punt position on this is to go back and go for CDBG as far as it's concerned, as far as helping out lower middle income, and with new houses and or rehabilitation of houses. That affects anywhere from 10 to 20 people a year according to what we get. So realize that is our position, and what we want to do is every year we want to keep that funding coming, because you don't ever want to get out of that cycle. So that's the reason we punt back to it. Also, from a development side, as far as sewer, water, infrastructure, we need the sewer Wakulla Gardens and Magnolia Gardens. All right, the problem is we don't have nothing to connect to. CDBG, you can't lay dry lines. So and we've also got a grant, $4.6 million grant, to extend sewer into Wakulla Gardens and Magnolia Gardens. And as soon as we get those, then we're going to look at particular areas of Magnolia Gardens and Wakulla Gardens and see where we can get a niche that it'll fit the LMI, because the lower that you can't fit it all in Wakulla Gardens. It just won't fit. So, but there's going to be certain neighborhoods that will fit. So we'll go in and sewer and pave and do those type things.
One thing that was an important point to me is that there's a presumption, if you take this grant and use it for housing rehab under the program that we have, the presumption from the granting agency, which is the state, I guess, is that, yes, that's a qualifying activity. You don't need to go prove it's qualifying. You automatically get the money. They presume...
each one will qualify as they make applications.
Well, if you say, I'm going to use the money to do housing rehab for, underprivileged people, they'll say, okay, that's all you need to tell us. You don't need to prove anything else. We're going to give you the $750. If you want to use it for sewer in Wakulla Gardens, you need to prove that the area you're serving is benefiting low to moderate income people, and that's hard to do, and it's not cheap to do.
It's not cheap to do, and it's very expensive. So therefore, we make and understand everything we do is calculated. Okay, we don't just jump out there and go do something. Everything we do works together. It's just like we've got the USDA. First thing I wanted to do when I came here is change up the CDBG, but all of a sudden I figured out, number one, I don't have sewer capacity. Number two, I don't have the collection system. Okay, to even come in, because you go a block off of Crawfordville here, and you're in dirt roads. Same thing with Panacea. First thing I got to do is sewer it. All right, we went. Like I said, we do everything strategically. There's no hodgepodge jumping all over the place. We do things strategically, so therefore what we did, we said, we secured a USDA loan for a sewer treatment plant. Okay, number one, $10 million security. Got a $4.6 million grant to extend sewer to Magnolia Gardens and Wakulla Gardens. So now, guess what we can do as soon as those construction projects are in?
What?
In 3 to 4 years, they'll apply, all of a sudden we can start rolling CDBG projects in those areas and helping 75 to 80 homes at one point in time.
Question.
So, yes.
In our agenda item, in the section pertains to neighborhood revitalization, it refers to the 51% for the low to moderate income. but in the commercial revitalization, it does not. Do we still have to meet the same income threshold?
Well, but that's a question for Fred Fox. We've talked about that, but the problem is we don't have basic infrastructure to handle even that. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of, believe me, we try to put this, it's what I keep telling everybody, it's a round, Wakulla's round circles, bunch of them, and CDBG's a square peg, because understand, we're not a low to moderate income county, believe it or not. Our average is about $52,000 a year, our household income. That just doesn't meet it. So you got to understand, we're better off than and that works against you as far as CDBG is concerned.
We just need to figure out if that section would be exempt.
That section may be, it may be, but still at the end of the day, you got to have infrastructure. And understand, everything we do, we strategically are working, everything works together. So that's the reason we move things forward. We don't press one thing forward unless we're ready.
Right.
Okay?
They may say you don't have a downtown, though, for all we know.
That's right.
So this $750,000 is a grant cycle that we've used before.
Year over year.
Year after year. This is nothing new.
Nothing new, no magic.
We looked at trying to apply for something different. We were told by the consultant that it wouldn't fly, so we're back to the same thing that we've done year after year.
That's right.
Until things change.
Until things change, we're where we are. Can we do it? Yes, we can do different things possibly, but at the end of the day, it's got to work with our master plan. We just can't say let's just run out here and willy-nilly do something. It's got to work together in concert with everything that we're planning, because this is just, understand, this is just one small piece, even though it's $750,000, one small piece of the $22 million in grants and things that we're going after at one point in time. So, and it all has to work together.
And all this money does go back to the community, either money put into the houses, contractors, local suppliers.
Local suppliers.
So a lot of the money goes back to the community.
All the building materials are all here.
Let's let the citizens speak. Mr. John Shuff.
I'm John Shuff, representing EDC. I've had a couple other things to say. I think David answered a couple of my questions. One thing I was curious about, and the main reason I came to the meeting tonight was I know in our EDC meetings and what TCC is doing, they're trying to put together a seafood processing plant down in Panacea. And I don't know what the demographics are, if 51% qualifies down there. Do you have any idea about how Panacea would pan out?
That we'd have to see. You have to look at it. But Panacea would probably be a good fit. But understand the way that process works is an individual like TCC would bring that to the county and say, "County, we would like to do this." And they would have to do all the background work. Then bring it to the county and say, they have to spend the money to create the plan, to create do all the permitting, everything they're doing, bring it to the county, and then these 5 are going to have to say, will we approve it or not, because they're putting the citizens' money at risk.
Right.
And that's the real litmus test there, is putting the citizens' money at risk. And if it's a good business plan and they feel good, that's fine. They'll make that decision. If not, they may say no. But that's the way the process would work. And then the county, because understand at that point in time, the county would take that. The county would take ownership at that point in time of that and grant John Shuff Seafood Company. John Shutt, here's your building. Your building.
I'm retired, man.
But ultimately, it's all of us.
And that's a separate grant, by the way.
That's separate.
Economic development category that you can have at the same time you have the housing one.
That's right. We can have that at the same time we have housing, same time as we have all the other grants.
Yeah, they actually have a specific building that exists that they're considering buying, and they're a pretty good partner.
But that's something
somebody's
got to bring to us.
Okay.
We don't go out and look for that. It's like the Buckhorn that was brought to the county.
But that is something that could be considered in the time frame that we have. If it's an existing facility.
There's no deadline on that.
There's no deadline on economics. So
the grant category says funds are used to build infrastructure necessary to attract new businesses or retain existing. It says build infrastructure. I don't say buy a building, so
Well, your buildings qualify at some point in time, yes.
Well, and that may fall under the commercial revitalization.
Right.
To do improvements.
That's how we ended up with the
It's
community
several
center.
different categories.
That as the EDC, bring those things forward to
Okay.
the county, because that is a funding source, but understand that's how that's going to work.
Okay, well, I'll get up with Bob and talk about it.
And John, on the economic development grants, the 51% applies to the jobs created. 51% of those have to be available for low and moderate income persons.
And
It's not
that
necessarily
would
the
probably
area.
work. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Russell. It's hot.
Thank you. It sounds like it's pretty well decided, and I can understand everything Dave's saying, but I want to throw this out, that we have a lot of kids that need something, and some of those are absolutely low income and moderate, and I'd like to see a ball field, basketball, whatever, in a park down in Panacea. I know at my fire station in Oklahoma Bay, I went out and bought a basketball goal, put it up, put a little note, if there's any trash, then this is going away. It's never been trash, and I see kids and families out there playing basketball. I'd like to see y'all do something. There's a lot of kids in Panacea that just don't have anything to do but get in trouble. And I'd like to see somehow some of this money go to something like, it wouldn't take a great deal of money, just take a little bit of money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kimberly Williams.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Excuse me. I'd first like to thank you for your time. I'm here today to ask you to consider Panacea on behalf of the CDBG grant in the amount of $750,000, or some thereof. And I'd like you to know how beneficial I feel it would be to the Panacea community. My name is Kimberly Williams, and I'm a resident of Panacea. I am also a mother and a business owner in the community as well. We desperately need a recreational facility in Panacea. We have a facility on the west side of 98, the Women's Club. We desperately need some attention and some upgrades to this site. There is a basketball court there, but no hoops, no nets, and no backboards, and no fence. So if the ball gets loose, it rolls down into the middle of Otter Lake Road. Next thing you know, some kid's going to get hit. We also need our baseball field brought back to life. It's just where grass is growing over it. It's just really sad. And preferably with dugouts. Be nice to even have a volleyball court. That would be great. I've lived in Panacea for 12 years, and this facility has had no improvements. I was there a couple of weeks ago for a meeting, no AC. I would like to see these things fixed, revitalized, and brought back to standards at the Women's Club, and making it a safe place for our children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Chuck Robinson.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, David, for the excellent explanation. I think that was probably the clearest way it's ever been put to everybody in the room about how the whole thing works, because it can be kind of confusing, and it's important that we do move forward with some risk adversity, that we go ahead and do put the infrastructure in. I did receive a number of phone calls over the past week, though, asking about this project or that project. The way I always boil things down to is what's the the immediate economic impact versus the future economic impact. Infrastructure obviously has a long-term growth. The short-term housing rebuilds that we have been doing have been good, but they're short-term. Let's face it. It's you could say theoretically these folks can go into the Walmart and now buy more because houses were funded, but that's very short-term. I think going forward, years 2, year 3, year 4, if we start talking about some of these projects you guys are going to hear about, they need to be addressed as in, yes, we acknowledge, and we'll certainly do these, and then when we start measuring those different projects, we immediately consider what's the economic impact, if it's a pool or if it's a a new rec park in Panacea. Those things have to generate revenue in some way for the county. It can't be additional cost. So that was my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next, Miss Jeannie Beck.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeannie Beck. I've lived in Panacea for 15 years and owned a home there for 13. I wanted to lobby for Panacea also to get some of the grant money if anything becomes available. They do need attention down there. It's not so much housing and infrastructure that's needed immediately. It is more things for children and families. The future of Panacea lies in its past. We're not looking to have a kind of town that looks like every town on the coast of Florida that's been developed. What we have going is pretty nice. It's an old fishing town. But the kids do need a little bit more equipment and things like that. So I just want you to please consider Panacea when you're thinking of these grants. I also want to say one thing about what's going on out here, okay? I'm very disappointed in you guys. I really am. Panacea right now is talking about whether to incorporate or not. And one of the things that I worry about more than the money or this or that is, are we going to have this kind of crap in Panacea that we got here? With 5 big boys that can't be nice to each other and get along and have to oh, you said that, and then you got different people going out and getting some crazy radio DJ guy to say the most horrible things on the radio about Howard. I listened to the podcast today. I couldn't make it through the second part. It was so mean, nasty, untrue, uncalled for, stupid. Anyway, I hope that none of you had anything to do with that, although that's a big hope. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Next, Mr. Chris Russell.
Hey, Commissioners, thank you. You have a Citizens Advisory Task Force pulled together for this right here. Everybody stepped back and I was put as chairman. Didn't want to be chairman, but that's how it ended up. Let me address a couple of things. Chuck Robinson, you're right. We should be looking at how much things cost in the overall long term. We spent $750,000 to do this last grant cycle. You know how much money we got back? $3,000 ad valorem. We spent $750,000 rehabbing 14 people's houses. We got $3,000 ad valorem back. That's not a good investment. That's a terrible investment. And now we're going to do it again. We're going to have $1.5 million in 2 years going to rehab some individuals' houses when these are community development block grants. You've heard some folks in here tonight asking for what they might get or could get or whatnot. This was to be a public hearing to bring forth ideas, not to come in here and say what we're going to do. I understand there's some time constraints. That was a nice softball, Randy, that we got this through like this. Hey, the fact of the matter is this. We had time. If we knew in February, if we knew in January, we need to have a backup plan. I'm not sure what we're spending $75,000 on. I don't know where that is. But if our consultant, and I get it, I get the level of service, the service area for a fire department, Trice Lane, may not include 51% low to moderate income. However, a fire department put in Wakulla Gardens probably will. Now, we talk about surveys take too long. Have you read the survey? It's not that hard. You can do it in a week. You could probably do it in 3 days if you had the right motivated people. You prove it, you go with it. We should be looking at that. We should be looking at ways to help. Panacea, hey, I love you. You know, you need help down there. Wakulla Gardens. I was in a meeting last week where a banker said they could not get someone qualified because of the fire insurance rate in Wakulla Gardens. Now, thinking long-term out, 4 or 5 years, we're going to have infrastructure there, but then we're going to turn around and be charging sewer and water. So there aren't a financial challenge. It's just going to get worse. I think that we need to be looking different. The Community Advisory Task Force, fire department was up there. David explained why that would be a challenge. We totally get that. Community pool was right there at the community center. Low to moderate income, Bridlewood, Amelia Wood, Guinevere, Magnolia Gardens, draw a circle. Just go out 3/4 of a mile. I think you probably would find that you make you 51% on that. This was set up to be so you'd have ideas. We're kind of going backwards on this. We ought to be going forward on it. understand that if we go forward with it and we make this happen, although this is backwards of how the system is supposed to work, we need to have a plan next time. We need to have surveys. We need to have community input. We need to have the public saying, these are what we want. And when they come forward and say, we want this, then we say, okay, this is how we get there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Miss Sabrina Williams. Pass. Thank you. That was our last speaker. Comments from the board.
I have a question. After all that information, what is this costing us?
Zero.
I don't have much problem with zero.
That's right. That's the reason it's a punt position.
And as far as fire, I think that we have a really pressing problem right now in getting proper housing for our firefighters. And well, obviously this didn't work for that, so we have to look at other methods.
Yeah, we have more need than we have money, and I think you guys are hearing that as a thing. And it's a matter of we don't have any land, and we don't have a lot in Wakulla Gardens or a place to put it.
I think most of us would agree if we could use this money at the Parks Department,
Oh yeah,
we would do it.
Well, a lot of that
You
stuff,
just can't.
like the Panacea stuff, is FERDAP grant. So I mean, realize they're just now funding FERDAP, so we're gonna be putting projects in. The problem is anything done at the community center as far as CDBG is concerned, we're gonna run the same problem we did with the fire.
I don't want a pool anyway.
Because it's for the community, meaning you cast the big net versus the small net. So I understand that, but at the end of the day, it just like I said, CDBG is a square peg, and we got a bunch of round holes, and it's tough.
Now, what are some past, if I could, Ralph, some past projects years ago? I remember, I think, we did fund some sewer off an
There were
independent
sewer improvements
grant.
here in
Park? Was it
Hickory
Hickory?
Park. Hickory Park was a sewer improvement, and they paved the road. There's another section back there that a CDBG was used. And that's what I'm saying is, as soon as we get capacity, that was the whole point, is to get the capacity, and then we could start doing some community revitalization, because, like I said, we've got Panacea and Crawfordville. You go a block off, and you're on dirt roads, and that's crazy.
You can't build a sewer system and not make it active immediately.
That's number one, and that's what I'm saying. And then you got, like I said, it's a tough fix. It's a tough spot. And yes, we do plan it, and we've got all that stuff taken care of. So.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Speak on several things everyone said. For one, I do support our parks. As we had the parks workshop earlier, and I also support our firefighters. I believe that we need to continue to work towards getting them the facilities, and the paths being laid out for that as well. I want to thank staff for the analysis that they did, to where I've talked to several of the staff members about it, and it made it pretty well clear that we've got a short turnaround time to put a package together. And I think I'm going to support the agenda item that's on here tonight moving forward, but I also want to say that several things that were brought up about Panacea. I've been supportive of the incorporation of Panacea for one of the biggest reasons is whenever I was on the city commission of Stop Choppy, whenever you incorporate a city, you can go for the same simultaneous CBDG grant that the county can. So if Panacea does achieve one day incorporation, Panacea will be able to achieve a lot of those things through its own sources, even though we may not be able to meet those needs here tonight. But if Panacea achieves that incorporation, you'll be able to do that. But that's for up to Panacea. But those are just some things that I wanted to say.
I'd just like to see us take a good hard look at that community revitalization. We don't have a lot of information on it, but provides funds to address improvements to downtown or commercial districts, including water, sewer, sidewalks, parking, building facades, etc. That could certainly fit all over the place, especially if we can get around the 51%. So, my preference next year, let's try to make something work in either community revitalization or neighborhood revitalization. The housing rehabilitation is great, but I think we'll get a bigger bang for the buck if we can make them fit in those other two categories.
I agree with you 100%. Ever since I've been here trying to get that fit, and I've yet to find it.
Let's come up with suggestions and have David shoot them down, and then at least we'll know that we...
And it's not that I'm trying to shoot them down.
No, I know, but,
we've hit this thing hard before. This
yes,
is not
that's
new,
a great idea, but you can't do it because of this.
This is absolutely not new. This is something was talked about 3 years ago.
And the application deadline is June 22nd, isn't it, David? So whatever we do, if we were to switch gears right now, we'd have to put the package together before June 22nd.
Well, we don't have anything that fits, and that's the problem. is
My big
you gotta-
question is, going back to what Ralph said, is under the commercial revitalization, it does not mention LMI at all. If that's a category that doesn't need to, it does? Okay, never mind. We'll talk about this later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is. That's the reason I brought in an
Find a neighborhood where it
Hey.
does fit.
First thing I did is I brought an expert in.
Right.
I laid it all out. Here's what we got. An expert.
Yeah.
Not
And Fred Fox is
Fred
good.
Fox, he
There's
is the
no-
best there
no-
is. And I said,
no
what?
question.
Here's all our dreams. And he said, sorry.
If that's the case, then,
Other than him, he's number 2. But
if that's the case, then our environmental center is looking at a fishery manufacturing whatever.
that's an economic. That's a separate one.
How can that be different than commercial?
Well, you can apply for that
You
one.
can apply for that one over and above.
Yeah. So Panacea would be a fit for what we're talking about. It would probably fall beneath that 51%.
Possibly according to the project. I understand is according to the project, and CDBG also has this, you just can't do one thing with it. You have to do multiple things with it.
Well, there are probably multiple things
But
you
that's
can
what I
do
mean.
there.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle.
Yeah.
That you don't understand, and that's what I'm saying. That's the reason I brought the expert in, and he
That's
said,
all right.
and that's what I'm gonna bring in the future and say, does this qualify or not? Because I'm not gonna chase after something that's gonna waste taxpayers'
You
dollars.
could probably fit it all into Panacea.
According to the project, yes.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yes.
And it's important to note that the definition of low to moderate income jobs defined as positions requiring no more than a high school diploma. If additional training is required, the company must provide the training at no cost to the employee.
That's right.
So if you could hire them with just high school training, then it's possible to meet that threshold and qualify.
Well, he was talking about with the 75,000 earlier, whenever you're going for CDBG grants, if you're able to do the engineering up front, it scores you way higher in the grant process versus later.
And that was a
It can-
$75,000. Normally, you have to spend at least $75,000 in planning and engineering, or other type of services in order to get to. It's all a point system, and that's like having the committees of 10 points. Everything's a point system, but the big point of that is, if you really want to get on the list, you've got to have your everything done and over with. If not, you go way to the back of the line, and there's not that much money left.
Call the question.
Well, I think we have more eyeballs and attention
Oh, yeah.
on this than we ever have, so I'd like to thank the Citizens Advisory
Yeah.
Task Force, Economic Development Council, Chamber of Commerce, and
Sure.
you know,
We
encourage
love it.
everyone. Let's
But
figure out a
I
way to
just
make this
ask
thing
next
work
time, just
next year.
please come to me, and I can lay it all out for you, and I'll show you everything we're doing.
Right.
So we can all work
Yeah.
together in concert, okay, not individually, together.
We just need to find solutions
That's
that'll
right.
work.
That's right.
I think Randy said he called the question.
I don't need to make a special motion if we'll just go ahead and we get along again.
I'm done. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Louis.
Okay, go to item number 11.
Louis' show tonight.
Yes, Commissioners, this agenda item requests board approval to conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Wakulla County Land Development Code pertaining to notice requirements for administration of the Land Development Code.
I still
Basically-
approve.
Second.
Have a first and second. Any citizens? Okay. Comments from the board?
Just that this is an improvement.
Yes.
It is an improvement. I would like to make one note and offer a friendly amendment, possibly. The Planning Commission had a problem, let's see, with the mail notices for county-initiated rezonings. So this is an improvement, certainly, but any county-initiated rezonings would no longer have mail-outs to the property owner and adjacent owner.
Louis, I asked you about this, you explained it to me. When's the last time we did a county-initiated rezoning? Was it Magnolia Gardens?
The board directed us to do, I guess it was Magnolia Gardens, and it would be county-initiated of 10 acres or more, and this is to allow for us to do comprehensive looks at perhaps we want to do a new zoning classification for Crawfordville, or, my plan is to totally update our zoning code to reduce a lot of duplication, and this would eliminate the requirement to do perhaps thousands of mail notifications.
And this also...
We would still do, the published notices.
This reduces the requirement to make it certified mail, so it could be just regular mail, certified that it went out by affidavit.
Like I
So
said-
the cost would be considerably lower.
I talked to him about this and staff, and I'm happy with their recommendation, which was, my motion's gonna stand.
Very good.
So will my second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Tab 12.
This next item is for comprehensive plan amendment. It's to consider transmittal of a text amendment amending policy 1.2.3, 1.2.4, and 1.2.5, and 1.2.12 of the future land use element. This would affect the increase the number of intersections eligible for commercial development.
Motion to approve.
I second with conversation.
Okay. We do have some citizens to speak. Mr. John Fort.
I have requested to speak on item 12 and 13. I'd like to combine both those and speak for no more than 4 minutes. Is that okay?
3 on each.
On each.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm going to combine them and give you 4.
Well, we're not on 13 yet.
Can I
but
combine my comments?
We've got to take them 3 here and 3 there. That's our policy.
Okay, I have combined them.
Well, I mean, you can combine it, but I'm going to have to cut you off at 3 minutes.
I'll give
But
I'll
then
give it my
you're
best
welcome to
shot.
speak on 13 when it comes back up and finish it up if you don't get it in.
My name is John Ford. I'm a resident of the Ivan Road. My comments are before you as I request item 521 through the Planning and Zoning Office. CP 1501, dealing with intersections, the question before you is why this amendment is being considered when the board has the ability to address each application on a case-by-case basis, and further, there is no evidence that the voting public considers this broad development approval as necessary. Neither has the public shown an interest in a referendum on this item. CP 1502 allows increases in density in the primary springs protection zone. The proposed ordinance amendment 1502 failed 7-2 at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting on 5/11 of 15. The proposed ordinances, both of them, allow greater densities in outlying parts of the county when core areas, i.e. the Crawfordville community, remain underdeveloped and core area suitable available acreage is not being utilized. Further, presently there are planned and platted developments in the Ivan area that are not being implemented due to slow growth and economic concerns. The initial comp plan amendment creating the primary springs protection zone was supported by exhaustive and numerous public meetings and workshops. The original ordinance benefited from careful consideration by all voting blocks in the county, from conservationists to developers and all parties in between. A well-crafted and received product was delivered to the commissioners and was well received. If extensive time was allowed for the original, why is a critical and far-reaching amendment only being allowed 3 minutes of review by each concerned citizens? 1502, the zoning and land use and sewer regulations already in place for projects property requiring central sewer hookup. Can each of you sitting commissioners tell the public how your proposed amendment is any different from the established Ag, Rural 1, Rural 2, Rural 3, or Urban 1 land uses? Densities are already established for the primary springs protection zone on the current future land use map, and it appears the proposed ordinance 1502 duplicates zoning districts already on the books. Both the proposed ordinances must meet the intent of the conservation district. The board should not forward to DCA a document that does not meet the state mandated standards for the conservation district.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
I'll give you a chance on 13 if you want to come back up.
I will, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen Reese.
Alan Reese, Emerald Acres Drive off of East Ivan. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this issue. I'm speaking on CP 1501. This has increased the number of intersections eligible for commercial development. And you're probably already aware this ordinance would almost double the number of intersections eligible for commercial development from 21 to 37. There are currently 6 approved intersections within the primary springs protection zone. This ordinance would add 8 more intersections within the PSPZ for commercial development. So it's more than doubling the number of intersections within the primary springs protection area for commercial development, more than doubling it. I reviewed all 16 intersections. I hope y'all did the same. And I reviewed all the property in every quadrant of all 16 intersections. 2 intersections are completely surrounded by Wakulla Springs Park property or National Forest with no opportunity for commercial development. 1 intersection is all Wakulla Springs Park property on one side with 6 larger tracts on the other side, 5 to 15 acre tracts. And doesn't appear to be feasible for commercial development because of the location. 2 intersections are in remote areas, Curtis Mill and Smith Creek, where there's not enough population or traffic to support commercial development. It's fruitless to even consider those. You can't build it and say they'll come. You're not going to get a commercial developer to put a commercial development in Smith Creek. There's not enough traffic or population there. 1 intersection has U.S. government refuge property on one side. 3 other intersections already have 1 to 3 commercial sites approved or in place, and so they need no change. That leaves 7 intersections that remain with all corners that are privately held properties. Now, I'm not aware of any of these property owners that are pursuing a land use or a zoning change to convert their property to commercial. My question is, why are we doing this? Where is the need? Why are we going through this whole process, taking time and resources? The justifications that's given in CP 1501 are very vague, they're very general, they're very subjective, and they're unquantifiable. So why did the County Commission task planning and zoning to develop this ordinance? And what is the driving force behind it? I do not see it, and maybe you can enlighten me. There appears to be no legitimate need for this ordinance, unless you're trying to lay groundwork for further development in the primary springs protection zone. Is that what this is? A precursor to something that's to come? You know, it makes me nervous when I don't see immediate need. I've cut a lot of trees down, and you can whack that tree with an axe 40 or 50 times and don't do much damage, but then one whack after all that and the tree falls. So you start compromising the protection zone with seem like minor changes at the time, and then they mount up, and then one day there's an escalade of events.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Miss Ed Atkins.
Thank you guys for seeing me. I have not understood much of anything that's been said tonight. It all sounds like Greek to me because I am one of the people that wants more intersections in there because I'm wanting to zone my property commercial. It has been zoned residential forever, I guess. I've been in the county since 1982, and I've been trying to get my property it's on 319. I've been trying to get it changed for 10 years or so. I've gone before the board twice. This would be my 3rd time trying to get it changed. I've filled out the thing that you fill out over here, and I paid my money to get it recessed. They're telling me now that it's because I'm not close enough to one of the intersections. Well, since I've been trying to get my land commercial, there has been people on both sides of the road, all up and down the road, that have gotten their land zoned commercial. I want to know why I can't have mine zoned commercial. Is there a problem? Can you guys give me any help? Can you tell me why I'm the only one practically that can't get commercial land?
Actually, we can't have a discussion with the speaker.
Oh, we can't.
That's
okay.
That's all right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Maybe we can answer that a little later.
I've not been here before. I would just want.
This is not citizens to be heard, so we can speak.
So we can't.
I've actually got some information that I'm going to present to the rest of the board. She brought this to me, and I realize that there's an inconsistency with what's been done in the past. And so, I mean, if you finished your comments, and we're going to go into discussion, and I'm going to share that with the rest of the board.
I finished mine. I appreciate any help you can give me.
Here's what I found when she brought her problem to me. The property in red is her property. Everything that you see there in yellow are properties that have already been zoned commercial. And so what we're proposing tonight certainly gives more latitude for development, but it doesn't affect her either way, before or after. She's about 1.4 miles from the Bloxham cutoff in 319. Within a quarter mile of her property, there are 14 properties that have been rezoned commercial. And so what you see in green is agricultural, yellow is commercial. My thinking is, you know, that's a terrible inconsistency to tell her that her property is not eligible for commercial there. I'd like to see us approve what we've got tonight, but also make some sort of a provision in there that she could come back, and I spoke to Louie about this, and she could request to do a change to the future land use map and a change to the rezoning at the same time that would make it consistent. And so
I agree with everything you said, and I think that basically she was done an injustice about in 2009 because she was turned down and whatever, but like you say, it's commercial, and what isn't commercial right now is listed for sale to be commercial.
Right.
If we could take what you said, why would we not make the commercial available from the town to 267? Because it's going to be commercial all the way to 267. The school board owns a huge piece of that. And then the other, I don't know where Ben owns it. He probably owns the other. But why not just go ahead and put that entire section in? And in the event, though, that you don't want to do that, then I want to go with what you said.
well, that could be done with a future land use map change.
Then basically I'll back up and I'll support what you said.
We wouldn't approve anything on behalf of her tonight.
Yes.
I'm just trying to raise this point so you guys realize what we have. And this area is North Point Shopping Center, Happy Time Daycare, Purple Martin Nursery, car lots in there. I mean, so there's commercial all the way through there.
Generally speaking, what will she have to do to bring her?
She would have to make applications.
Same thing everybody else does.
With Louis'
Yeah.
office.
She has, actually, I've talked with this lady also.
Edna.
Edna. Please excuse me, Edna. I know you very well.
She used to work in the emergency management department, by the way.
Edna's my dance partner at the senior center, so I should know her. But anyway, I want to make sure that she doesn't waste another $1,000 coming to the board to try to get something. So if you come this time, I think you'll have the support you need to go forward.
Well, that's all I'm looking for is a head nod that makes sense, that would be consistent.
Something definitely worth looking at. This was my item. Let me explain. This is not a zoning change for these intersections. The intent of this was to foster neighborhood growth, like in Michelle's grocery store right now would not be allowed under our current regulations. There's several, I think there's a couple commercial things. It was simply meant to try to prevent exactly what Jerry was saying, which is a strip mall from 319. We need to allow growth to go east and west. And what we had was so restrictive, it basically said you could only build up and down 319. This certainly has nothing to do with the Springs Protection Zone. I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to taking it out, but I'm not going to muddy the waters with that. It doesn't, but, you know, nobody's going to build anything at Kenny Curtin's old corner up there. It's owned by the state. It's owned by the park.
Right.
So, my motion stands.
Further discussion?
Unless you got other concerns you want me to talk about, or you got...
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to thank especially Mr. Fort for providing the board with a very comprehensive outline and reasons for his objection. The statement was made that everything will be commercial, and I guess if the board wants it to be, then everything will be commercial. I think the Springs Protection Zone, once we found out about those caves and the flow of water, not just going north to south, but south to north, and we had an obligation to protect that spring, anything that would increase density or increase commercial development, in my opinion, would be harmful to the springs.
Randy, I wanted to ask, when I was reading this, anything that's built in this area, they would have to have the ability to hook up to sewer, correct? Or
No,
would not be able
that's
to...
the next one. All this one is,
That's 13.
That's
currently
13,
our
okay.
code says you can only have commercial Louis, within a quarter mile of an intersection of two arterials, is that correct?
2 arterials or an arterial and a collector. This would just add collector to collector intersection.
Basically, as we restrict now, only allows commercial development along 98, 319 blocks from Cutoff and Woodville Highway, and that's it. We don't have any opportunities. We've got to grow outwards. I know, it's maybe 20, 30, 40 years before someone wants to build something that will be a neighborhood commercial for Wakulla Gardens, but right now that's not even allowed.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. Next, we'll go to item number 13.
This next item is to consider transmittal of a comprehensive plan text amendment amending policy 12.1 of the conservation element to allow increases in density in the primary springs protection zones, with certain densities being subject to connection to central sewer service.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have citizens. We'll start out with Mr. Fort. I do apologize for any confusion. I should have been better prepared. I want to pick up where I left off. Relative to densities in the proposed ordinance 1502, densities are already established for the primary springs protection zone on the current future land use map. It appears the proposed ordinance 1502 duplicates zoning districts already on the books on the map there. Both I'll reiterate what I said earlier about forwarding an item to DCA. We should not do that. We should not forward a document that does not meet the state mandated standards for the conservation district. The original primary springs protection zone addresses a transfer system regarding density. The Board of County Commissioners was to establish this system. If the transfer system has been established, then there is obviously no need to reinvent the wheel, as 1502 is attempting to do. Further, relative to density, the proposed 1502 ordinance is already in conflict with 2 other articles of the original zone legislation. I won't go into the specifics. They are in the primary springs protection zone. Planning and zoning is aware of this. What is a rush by the present commissioners to push this through? If these matters that will benefit generations of future county voters, then let's get it right for the first time. Allow the citizens to review, comment on, and design a product that you commissioners can take pride in putting your name on. Establish public meetings and workshops. Let the state DCA acknowledge the board's professionalism in addressing the perceived need. You should proudly represent the citizens who took their time to put you in office. What we need is further review, broad comment on this, public input, and then carry it forward. Let's make sure, if that need is there, that it gets through state DCA. Are there any questions from the board? Questions? Comments? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Next, Mr. David Clark.
Commissioners, just before he comes up and speaks, I just have to make a clarification before you make your vote on the item that you have before you. And I don't know if you want me to do it now.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. The in your agenda packet, the proposed language, we have in there that it should say, let's see, future land use designations that permit residential density greater than 1 unit per 2 acres with connection to central sewer service. It should say central water service, and that was brought up when we did the request to advertise, but it was incorrectly noted in your packet.
That's because of the rural 2 future land use language that's in there?
Yes, it should say central water just to match that language. It doesn't make sense if you say central sewer, because it requires connection to central sewer further in that paragraph. So.
Thank you for that clarification.
David Clark, heading home lane off East Ivan Road. I'm the last driveway on the right before you get in the curve. This year that I know of, because I'm a quarter mile from the highway, I don't know of all of them. But this year, there's been 4 accidents coming around the curve going toward 319. 2 of them rollovers. We moved there in '80, and conservative estimate, there's been 35 to 50 accidents, some with injuries, some without. I've replaced mailboxes there 6 times. There is too much traffic on East Ivan Road. Now, you know, I realize this is the Wakulla Springs protection area, but I'm speaking specifically East Ivan. The density is already too dense up there as far as I'm concerned. If it was up to me, we'd plow the pavement under on East Ivan Road and go back to a dirt road. I would be thrilled with that. It's always the middle of the night when I have to go down there and pick somebody up out of a wrecked car. I don't know why me, because there's other folks closer to it than me, but I get the phone call for whatever reason. There's too many people, there's too much traffic already. You can't come out on East Ivan Road to 319 and try to come toward Crawfordville. You have to come out and go around the back way. You put a light up there, it's going to screw it up even worse. You've already, at quitting time, you've got traffic backing up from Walmart to Bloxham Cutoff and from Bloxham to River Sink. There's too many people there already. Spring Creek residents, Shadeville residents uses East Ivan for a cut through, which I don't blame them. Keeps them from having to come through Crawfordville. Gets them out of the clutter a little quicker. But there's just too many people, too much traffic there already. Another red light there would screw that up worse. There's no sewer system. There is some water system, but there is no county sewer system up there of any variety that I know of any closer than the pump station there at Walmart that goes, Lord only knows where. I don't. It just won't work. A lot of that, I realize, depends on sewer system coming. It should depend on 319 4-lane and 2, which is obviously never going to happen because it was on the agenda when we came down here in 1980.
It's getting close.
I think I've said enough.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just say one thing, if I could, real quick, about this proposal. No sewer means no allowable density increase.
Right. Outstanding.
That's what's in it. No
Outstanding.
sewer, no increase.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And, anything like we're by approving it, if we approve it tonight, but we won't be blanket approving any project or anything. This is simply, you know, any project that comes forward would have to be vetted individually accordingly.
Right.
And I'll explain it after the citizens are done, my reasoning for bringing this forward.
Next, Mr. Gary Hegg.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. But the way you guys are going about this just seems to be a little bit wrong. I support John Ford's comments about maybe getting the public more involved in this before we increase the densities in the Wakulla Springs Protection Zone, because there's so many more things that are impacted by density increases than just water or putting things on sewer. You know, you've got extra water being withdrawn from the aquifer. You've got more runoff from, you know, potentially causing local flooding. I know David's property that he was just talking to you, it floods all the time, and it's just down from East Ivan Road. More infrastructure means more roads, more bridges, more power lines, more gas stations with underground tanks. You know, all of those things go into the aquifer, which feed Wakulla Springs. You got more traffic and more congestion, more tires on the road, and grease and runoff from every vehicle, you know, and things like that. You know, there's a lot more to think about than just the sewer connection. If, you know, the strike-throughs that I read, it seemed like it was just dealing with the sewer connection and making it, if we did, you know, if you hook up to the sewers, everything is okay. But it's not, because there's so many other things that are related to density that need to be discussed, and you should think about that and let the community come up with a plan that's acceptable to all the people that are in there and protect one of the, state's greatest springs, and it may be one of the, first-class spring in the world, So we should do what we can to make sure that we protect it.
Thank you, sir.
One more clarification is, Louis, if we pass this tonight, does that increase density in the Wakulla Springs Protection Zone?
No.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Alan Reese.
Allows you to increase it, but it doesn't increase it. You understand?
Alan Reese, Emerald Acres. That confuses me. It's titled Increased Density in the Primary Springs Protection Zone.
That's partially the newspaper's fault, Nicole.
No, it's in the amendment, not
I
in
know.
the ad. It's also in the amendment itself.
Headline was increased density.
I agree with Gary's comments, and he's thinking right along the same line that I am. There's more impact than just sewer, even water. Increased road runoff, increased roof runoff, loss of vegetation due to clearing of right-of-ways and clearing for homes, vehicle discharge, increased fertilizer on lawns and gardens, increase in impervious areas, and that equates to even more runoff, sound contamination. I've experienced this already in my neighborhood, and stormwater seems to get a lot of these things as they enter into the system. There's also a current paragraph in the comp plan, 12.1, policy 12.1, paragraph 5, restrict fertilizer content and application rates and incorporate the principles of the Florida Yards and Neighborhoods program. That sounds real good. Has the county ever monitored and enforced this paragraph that's already in there? And will there be any kind of enforcement if you pass this ordinance? So who will monitor? Who will enforce this requirement with increased density? I would ask that you not increase the density within primary or make provisions for it to be increased. There's already property that can be developed within the zone with current land use and current zoning that has not been yet that can be, and so why create even more potential for that within that area? Please don't let yourself be the instrument for the continued demise of the Wakulla River and Wakulla Springs, and I think that's entirely possible over time. And we've seemed to have lost the concept of what pristine is. Pristine sounds good until we want to do something, and then we start compromising or changing the requirements somewhat. And there's abundance of residential lots for sale and some approved developments within this area that haven't been utilized that could be. So why are we increasing density? If you start compromising the Primary Springs Protection Zone, how do you stop it? Once you start going down this slippery slope, how do you stop it? And it's going to be hard to do because you set precedent. And then the next time, well, we did this, it leads on to us doing this, and it continues. So please vote no on this ordinance. Do not allow the increase of density from what currently exists in the Primary Springs Protection Zone.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, again, this was another one of my items. Let me explain my thinking. In 2010, not in 1980, in 2010, there was an evaluation and appraisal report done on a comp plan, and the statement was added, no net increase in dwelling units as allowed by the future land use map on the effective date of this policy shall be allowed in the Primary Springs Protection Zone. That was added in 2010. Before that, it didn't exist. All right. Now, if I was an uncompromising person, I would just say, let's just take that out. But after talking to staff, I changed and said, let's say you can only increase density, you can only apply to increase density, by the way. It doesn't increase on its own. You can simply apply to increase your density only if you're going to be on sewer. I consider that a compromise position instead of just saying you absolutely cannot do it or there are absolutely no restrictions on it whatsoever. I think people need to be clear. This vote tonight does not increase density in the Springs Protection Zone. It simply allows an individual property owner to apply for a density change, which is the comp plan, not zoning. I think a lot of people also don't realize the extent of the Wakulla Springs Protection Zone. Some people might think, well, that's just related to right around the springs. No, it goes from Owen Bellamy's place, it includes the Zaxby's, it includes the Walmart, and it runs 61 all the way over to Woodville. So it includes everything north of that, everything. So if this was in effect recently, or before 2010, I'm sorry, we haven't hit real growth since 2010, Walmart wouldn't be there, Zaxby's wouldn't be there, the Flowers wouldn't be there, Lindsay Mill would not exist today. There's a litany of projects that this statement would have not allowed to be built because it says no increase. And I think my position's a compromise. It doesn't mean everybody's got a free-for-all. They still have to come in and apply. We still have to look at each project individually, and that's it.
Well, and it's important to note that if someone wants to build there now, they can build and they can put a septic tank in the ground. And what this does is encourages and gives an incentive that density can be increased, but only if they connect the central sewer. So we could get a net gain of decreasing the nitrates going into the springs. And so, you know, like you said, it's an option. They can leave it exactly the way it is. They can apply for an increase in density, but they've got to connect the central sewer in order to make that happen. So I think we would probably all agree that if we can connect the entire county to central sewer, we'd be better off, and our springs would be better off. This is just an incentive to try to make that happen, or make it more likely to happen.
One step beyond that, too, it's an incentive to either get on sewer or keep relatively low density, right, Louis?
Right.
I mean, zoning will allow you to do a lot of different things. It don't matter if you're future land use ag, it's very complicated.
Further discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, this is the proverbial camel's nose under the tent. And once you allow it there, the camel will be sleeping with you. So besides in addition to the Wakulla Springs Protection Zone, and the low density is really important in springs protection. You have sewer with increased density and destroy the springs with increased density. But is there a needs analysis? Do we really need to do this? I don't think there's any analysis here. It's just the gut. And the second thing is, I think most of the people in Wakulla County are living here because of the quality of life. In addition to the quality of life, we have one of our largest income producers in Wakulla Springs that we're apparently willing to jeopardize. Thank you.
I love Wakulla Springs, too.
Further discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. Next, we'll go to item...
Mr. Chairman, can I just get clarification? That included the change that Louis noted from...
Correct.
Thank you.
Next, tab 14, Rock Landing Marina.
And let me go ahead and do your ex parte and your swearing in. This is a rezoning application concerning Rock Landing Marina. In accordance with section 24.01 of your code, each commission member needs to disclose any contacts they may have received regarding this application from the parties, any representatives, any lobbyists, or other third parties concerning this application. Commissioner Harden?
I haven't received any communication.
No.
None.
Nope.
No.
Thank you. If there's anyone here who's going to speak on this item, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this first item is for rezoning from C2 to C3. It's a 6.64 acre parcel
Motion to approve.
at 99 Rock Landing Road.
Second?
First and second, we have one citizen, Mr. Richard Woodrum.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I'm the chief operating officer down there, and it's been Rock Landing Marina for just 4 years, and we have grown significantly. We need to build another barn because people want their expensive boats inside. We're completely full now, and I would appreciate a positive vote so we can continue to grow down there.
Sure.
And that's all.
I'd like to ask you a question. When
Yes,
when you came there, you probably had how many boats in the barn?
We think there were 58.
How many boats do you have there now?
We have 120.
120. And how many do you propose going forward?
Probably, depending on how big the plot turns out to be, we're looking at probably another 50 to 75 possibly.
And how many dollars did your owner spend on the restaurant?
Several $100,000, and he has a large 7-figure investment in the property now.
We have a new member to Panacea who's probably going to have a $2 million investment. Probably more than that, $2 or $3 million investment, bringing jobs, bringing taxes, and everything. And I want to tell him through you, thank you for coming to Panacea.
Yeah, I would like to point out that of the 120, just 20 of our invoices go to Wakulla County residents. The rest of them are Tallahassee and north.
Yeah.
And today's the first day of snapper season, and they were bringing in fish today. So
And you
come down
can't
nice.
get to the Gulf any quicker than coming to Panacea. I don't know why in the world. Well, I don't need to go there. But you can get to the Gulf really quick in 5 minutes.
Yes.
From Panacea.
Yes.
And we can harbor your boat and keep it dry and give you gas and give you a good meal.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hear none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next tab, 15. Also quasi-judicial.
Yes, sir. So if there's any ex parte communications regarding this one, this is a application for a rezoning 1501, James Lee and Kathy D. Simmons.
None. I haven't ever seen it.
None.
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 Motion to approve.
Hold
Second.
on. If there's anyone here who's going to speak on this, please stand up to be sworn. You're already sworn. Anyone else? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
First and second stands. Citizens? Comments from the board? Questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our planning and zoning. We have no commissioner agenda items. County Attorney?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Chairman.
County Administrator?
Yes, I have two items. One is on our the BoCC holiday schedule that we submitted to you guys. There was an error on it, and have us taken off July 4th, which is on a Saturday, and like to request that be moved to Friday, July 3rd, as a day off for the BoCC.
Staff doesn't seem to like that idea.
Motion to approve.
Second emotion.
Yeah, okay.
I'm basically, I can go along with this as long as David stays on the job.
I'm always on the job.
Okay.
Have a first and second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Secondly, as I told each one of you in our meetings today, I'll be setting up meetings with y'all to discuss about the MSBU performance that we brought forward, as well as the 1 cent moving out 15 years, some ideas on that. So we'll be bringing that to you guys next week. I'll be giving each one of you a call, sit down, and let's talk about it and go through the numbers. So be ready for that. There's a lot of information and a lot of stuff to take into consideration.
And it doesn't include borrowing against the 1 cent sales tax,
It does
correct?
absolutely not.
Good.
We're feeling the pain from that right now.
Yes, sir. Anything further?
That's it.
Citizens to be heard. Mr. Walt Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Walt Dixon, President of Panacea Waterfronts. What I briefly want to mention to you tonight is, Mr. Kessler mentioned many times when we were before the legislature trying to get Panacea incorporated, and he would tell the House committees, most of the people in Panacea are poor people. He's probably correct. The reason for that is we need jobs down in Panacea. As everybody knows, when the BP oil spill came, it hurt Panacea greatly. It hurt our restaurants down there. It shut down our seafood industry. We have not recovered. The seafood industry has not recovered since the BP oil spill. We do not have a certified oyster house, even in all of Wakulla County today. And what I would hope that we could do under transaction money that the county is getting is that we could get some of those funds in Panacea, so that in conjunction, I hope, with Wakulla Environmental Center, is that we could create a Wakulla Aquaculture, a Panacea Aquaculture Center there, so that we could
create some more jobs for the people down there that desperately needs it. And we'd certainly appreciate the county considering this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Alex Quintana, representative of Representative Gwen Graham's office.
He's a double representative. Thank you, Commissioners, and just wanted to thank y'all again for your hospitality, letting us use your office. This afternoon we had the Congresswoman's office hours over before your meeting today, and if you have any constituents needing any assistance with any federal agencies, we're always more than happy to help. And got to take our summer intern for a drive along the coast here through Walton County, or Wakulla. I was in Walton County yesterday. Through Wakulla County last week, and we really, really enjoyed it.
Drive down to the lighthouse
Yes, sir.
and down Bottoms.
Yes, sir. I wasn't aware that was a federal preserve.
It's St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge.
Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
hadn't been out there since I was about 8 years old.
Beautiful.
No density increases there.
Well, again, if there's ever anyone that needs any assistance with federal agencies, we're pretty easy to track down.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Mr. Bill Russell.
I want to speak to you about something that I didn't know I was going to do it when I came here, but I'm going to do it. You know that your fire department and your EMS guys are all joining the American Nazi Party or something. Actually, what they want to join is one of the most respected unions in the world, and they aren't bad people. You've mostly got really, really good people. A couple of guys from Tallahassee I say tonight. One of them started the children's burn camp and has just brought children from all over. They're not bad people, and I'm going to ask you to please don't let this county get started off on a hostile footing with the union. It doesn't have to be that way. I promise you, I haven't talked to these guys about what they're wanting out of the county or anything, but it may be a lot of things that won't even cost you any money. I helped form the union in Tallahassee. We had a chief that had been there 40 years, and I'm not throwing off on Mike Morgan now. We had a chief that had been there a long time, and he only saw things one way. We had an unfair promotional system, and we had a lot of reasons that we formed a union. And then when I became management, I sat on the other side of the table. I negotiated for the city with the union. It's just not that big a deal, and it's not something that you need to get all worked up about. And I know that Dave and Chief Morgan are the ones that will be handling it, but you guys can set the tone on how it goes. So there's no reason to take good people. I mean, you've got really good people that go out, save lives, and I'm talking about your paramedics and what they... There's no use to get started off hostile. Commissioner Kessler said that they need better housing. Well, if you know they need better housing and they're asking for better housing, they can't make you build a fire station, but y'all can talk about it. And that's all I'm saying. It's just, I know there's already been some very hostile stuff said and done, but I'd like to see it back off and everybody just say, okay, let's look at this thing. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rusty Roberts.
Thank you for meeting with me, Commissioners. Thank you for having me at this. When I got here, I was sitting over here and I just watching democracy in action, and it just made my heart feel good. And I watched all these people that are so passionate. I mean, things from keeping Wakulla County beautiful to the springs down here to everything else. And I understand. I just want to share some of my passion. My passion is about firefighting because I've done it for 25 years in Tallahassee. And these gentlemen from Wakulla County, which, could I get y'all to stand up, the ones that work for Wakulla County? I signed up 27 out of the 28 that work for y'all. And they just want a voice. They care about this community, just like I care about this. I know I don't live in Tallahassee, but this is my area. I brought some other gentlemen from Tallahassee too with me. The model they went through is a successful model. I talked to the president of the state union. They said that It's a 60% failure rate if they just went on their own with a small local. But joining a successful local group like mine, it's a 90% success rate. That's why they came in here. I'm not coming in here trying to tell Wakulla County how to do anything. I'm here to try to give these gentlemen and ladies that work for y'all and this community the tools to move forward and to make it better. That's all I want to do. We gave, and this is not a shot at Chief either. I just want to say that I've had meetings with him. I find him to be a fine gentleman doing a tough job the best he can in a tough situation. So we've presented papers to County Administrator, and we're hoping for y'all to look at them. I've had conversations with 2 of your commissioners and hoping to have conversations with the other ones.
Is that something we're going to vote on? Just make sure you don't tell us what each other thinks. You'd be violating the Sunshine Law.
I wasn't planning to, but thank you. I just,
right.
If y'all would like to have meetings, I'm open to any time. We've submitted the paperwork. There's a couple ways they can do it. I don't want to tell you legal advice on that, how it goes. You've got great representation already, so talk to them about how it can move forward, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
you coming
much.
down. Miss Nikki Barnes.
Hi, Nikki Barnes, Crawfordville, Florida. I'm going to keep it brief. I sent you guys an email. It made it into the Wakulla News. I can tell you that I'm still, in a sense, disappointed, but my main focus is I want you guys to encourage the conversations. We all take part in controversial conversations. We may be offended at the content, but please don't stifle the conversation and make it turn something that we saw earlier tonight where it's defensive and it's antagonistic. We need to be able to come together as a community and have these conversations so we can come up with productive solutions on how to resolve them. Yes, none of those national media headlines are happening in Wakulla County. Thank God they're not happening in Wakulla County. But we do have children here who are graduating, who are leaving the county, who are going to other parts of the country, and I want them to see adults having productive conversations focused on solutions so if they end up in one of those cities where controversy happens, they know how to have productive conversations and focus on solutions. So that's my main thing. Please don't stifle the conversation. Even if it is offensive or controversial, encourage it, but make it productive and focus on solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Russell.
You didn't speak right.
Hey, the things you learn at a commission meeting, I did not know my dad was a union organizer. That's shocking. I'm not going to say depressing, but might be.
You know you're going to find us a Democrat.
Yeah. I'm out. All right, CDBG, we're in a tough spot. We did the right thing. Let's work on it so we don't punt to that next time. I think Dave's committed on that. We'll work with you. We can grab folks, and I think we can take cost off of surveys and stuff by using the community. I've looked at it. It's pretty easy. Economic development, we can do that at any time. Yes, it's got a risk. We got to be solid. We don't want another situation down like there. But you know that might have been the economy or whatnot. That was a great idea to revitalize that area down in Buckhorn. But we need to figure out a path forward. I would like to hear y'all have a path forward on economic development. What you like, we're going to take it back to chamber and we'll look at that as well. Rusty Roberts, I've known the guy 25 years. Can't think of a time in my life I hadn't known him. My father's absolutely right. That's a genuine man that helps a lot of kids that are in a really tough spot. He's a great guy. As far as the union, I like all y'all guys, support you. I thought that was your union up here, and that they should be doing, you know, if you have a problem, I would go to them. My concern is you'll start paying union dues and paying money, and it'll hurt you in the pocket, and you won't get what you want out of it. I would suggest you try to work through them, but I'm an outsider looking at it. I don't know your challenges. There's got to be a reason you're standing up here today wanting to unionize. We need to figure that out. But I would say back, let's go here and look. These folks here representing you. Maybe, Rusty, that conversation you can hold off a little bit and y'all figure it out here. I don't know your path forward on it right now. My concern, like I said, truly is it's going to cost y'all guys in your pockets first and foremost. Ultimately, it could cost the county with some lawsuits possibly, but I would hope not. But that's it. Economic development plan going forward. Check it out, and next year or next time, let's not fight. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ed Bremner. Ed, you get to wrap it up tonight. You're the last one.
All right. Be brief, I'm being told. Commissioners, I do thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm not here for any particular reason. I was not here this earlier tonight when things were brought up tonight. I just want to let everybody know that I am not a pastor. I am not a Sunday school teacher. I don't lead a men's ministry. I'm no saint. I've sinned and fallen short like most of us have. But I am a Christian. I want to take a minute for prayer tonight. And if you guys, I believe prayer changes things, and if you will please join me. Almighty God, whose great power and wisdom embraces the universe, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the Savior of Saul of Tarsus, who was later known as the Apostle Paul, I'm asking you to protect all policemen everywhere. Almighty God, I'm asking you to give our elected leaders the wisdom and protect them in these times of tribulation. Almighty God, I'm asking for your divine protection for law enforcement, as they are the thin blue line between most law-abiding citizens and criminals intent on all manners of crime, robbery, and violence. Almighty God, I'm asking you to give our policemen and policewomen the knowledge to recognize danger and the wisdom to defuse dangerous situations with a minimum of bloodshed or death. Almighty God, I can covet your protection for them, as their duty is dangerous and they must make split-second decisions that will forever affect their lives and their families' lives. Almighty God, I'm asking you to give them strength and courage. I'm asking you to protect these brave men and women. I'm asking you to unite them safely with their families who love them after their duty is ended. Almighty God, I'm asking you to give the men and women in positions of authority the wisdom to recognize the occasional man or woman who should not be in law enforcement, and give them the courage to remove them before they are a problem. Almighty God, I'm asking you to quick the spirit of those who use the sins of a few to smear the reputation of the vast numbers of honest law enforcement members throughout this great country. Let our fellow citizens see and understand the intellectual dishonesty of those using these tactics for political and financial gain. Almighty God, I thank you for our law enforcement's efforts to keep our streets and homes safe day and night. Almighty God, I thank you for our local law enforcement officers who have secretly given their lunch money to someone else who has needed it more. Almighty God, I thank you for our local law enforcement officers who give freely of their time to collect Christmas presents for our neighbors who might be having a rough stretch in their lives. Almighty God, I thank you for the hours spent by our law enforcement rescuing our citizens during times of crisis such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and other disasters. Almighty God, I thank you for the work done by our local law enforcement as they work to ensure the peace and the work for justice. Almighty God, I pray you give our law enforcement the courage, hope, and strength. May they know your firm support, your gentle love, and compassionate understanding. Almighty God, be their power and protector. To you be all glory, honor, and praise now and forever. I pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son and Savior, my Savior. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, sir. That's our last citizens to be heard. Move to discussion items by commissioners. Richard, you want to start it off?
We spoke earlier in the workshop earlier today about, different ballparks and things. There's one thing I've looked at. There's several ballparks around the surrounding counties where they actually are contracted with public-private. So they come in with actual enterprise money and not tax money. That's one thing. But the other thing, I want to just reiterate what I said at the last meeting, and I just wanted to raise awareness that I'm very pro law enforcement. I support law enforcement. I support the men and women in uniform that are professional in their jobs every day, and that's where my focus is at. And I want to raise awareness to the many good men and women that are wearing the uniform every day.
Just a couple of things. David, they mentioned the Women's Center in Panacea that they had no air.
Yeah, I sent that email to Cody, and he said they fixed it the same day. So.
Okay. If you folks in Panacea will just let me know, when
Yep,
when
and
you
we're gonna have
a
somebody
problem,
check it to make sure, but he said he
or
fixed
whatever
it.
you have, I'll do whatever I can to help
They
you.
got one of the new units in it?
No, we had a burned out wire going to the compressor, and they fixed that, but I asked Cody to go. He's gonna go out and look at it tomorrow.
That's
make
one of
sure.
the ones I assume we're gonna replace at some point in the near
Yeah.
future?
Yes.
We did the roof on that, and it's silly not to have
Right,
that
and,
AC.
well, like I say, it went out earlier, and if it continues to be a problem, we'll just replace it.
They mentioned that it's a small park, but it's a good little park, and it's certainly not used much. But when they say they don't have a basketball net, can we see if we can get them a basketball net? They would like to have a fence around that field if possible. So I know we can get the net.
Those are things that we can work on with FERDAP grants. But as I said,
I'll buy you a net.
No, the net, but I'm talking about the fence and everything. The net's easy. We can take care of that.
Okay. All right. Okay. You know, we had a workshop today on the rec department, and I think most of us agree, and it's one of the primary things that when I leave Wakulla or when my time is over, I want to see Wakulla have a first-class recreation facility. I think your BP money has a wide latitude on how it has an economic benefit. There's absolutely no other product that you can do for this county than to put a nice recreation park in Wakulla, because you can do tournaments, you can do state tournaments. Where I came from, we probably had 10,000 people a weekend come to soccer tournaments, and no telling how much money they spent. But another part, and I don't think we have anything to do with this, but for the benefit of the associations in basketball, soccer, and whatever, I asked our clerk how much money that those concessions brought in. With all due respect, she had no idea.
We don't know.
This is so bad. This is so bad. In our rec department, we have no idea how much money what our gross receipts are, what our net receipts are, and we may not even know where it is.
It's
not county money.
It's not county money.
Yeah,
We
okay.
don't have anything to do
It'd
with
be like
it.
saying we don't know how much money that Winn-Dixie
We back
collects.
That's right. That'd be like me
Then
going and seeing how much Winn-Dixie does.
I'll back away from that. But for you association people and you recreation people, it's your ballpark, and you need to know where your money is. It's just that way. Anyway, also, we talked about the electric bill for the rec field. You said it involved a lot of money to put new lighting and so forth. You can absolutely lease those lights. You can absolutely do that. You can get with Talquin Electric or whoever the electric company is. You can lease the lights.
Not those particular lights that we've got right now that are.
You're sure of that?
We've already looked at that.
Okay. I'll
They're
do like.
specialty light, but Talquin doesn't offer that.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that. Anyway, and another subject. Virginia and I just traveled down to Lakeland, Florida. Last year sometime, I had an article in the paper that if you would send me a petition to petition Publix to come to Wakulla County, that I would take that petition to Publix. And it took a while to do it, but anyway, we were down there 2 weeks ago, and we presented almost 400 signatures to Publix that the people of Wakulla County wanted a Publix to come here. And we presented that to the real estate director, and they looked at it very favorable. They said they would look the area over again. I think we probably need. Actually, they think we need population. I don't think so, because we draw people from St. George Island. You can't get to a Walmart any closer from St. George Island than you can get to this Walmart here. So those people there, they shop once a week. So they come here once a week to shop or to Tallahassee. But we did present the petitions, and they received us cordially. And I appreciate all the people who took the time to mail in those sheets that I had put out in the newspaper, and I thank you.
Very good.
I would like to personally thank our law enforcement community, each and every one of you that serve our community, as well as our first responders, fire and EMS. There's certainly, regardless of how everything moves forward, there has never been a question as far as the professionalism that you guys bring to our community and the way you serve our community. So I'm going to thank you publicly for that, and I think that we don't thank you enough, but we do recognize what you do, and so thank you for that.
2 items. Number 1, I'm going to sound the alarm again about the utility relocation costs on 319 when it is going to happen, David. We all know it's coming, and I don't want to sit here 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now and all of a sudden we don't have any money to relocate utilities and somebody says nobody said anything.
I thought that was budgeted in.
Well, we need to keep harping every year
That's one of the things you'll see.
to
next
budget
year.
our reserves instead of saying, well, we're starting to come back, let's stop collecting revenue. We need to save money. It's like knowing that your AC's gonna go out in 5 years and not saving a dime up for it, and all of a sudden it goes out and you just raise your hands and you're in crisis mode. Oh my God, what happened? We know it's coming. We can see it on the DOT work plan. It's not gonna be cheap. It's gonna be millions of dollars. So, Jessica, write this date down. I did bring this to everybody's attention. Number 2, she actually wrote it down. Number 2, let's follow up on that. I know why the boosters took over the concession stand, okay? And that's been before your time, right?
Yes.
Let's
Oh,
see.
yeah. Yes.
Let's see if maybe the volunteer fire department pulled together. You know, there was some animosity there at one time, but if there's any way to bring these groups together, instead of needing an umbrella agency, maybe they could work together, because I understand what the Cal Ripken people are saying. They're saying, while we're there, the people that are there at the rec park are watching the Cal Ripken games, and we'd like to be able to use the concession stand to sell stuff, to see if they're willing to get together and work it out amongst themselves, some sort of sharing agreement. Now, when he said they didn't know where the money was going, I think that really had nothing to do with the county necessarily, but they can police themselves on that. If the Cal Ripken people look at their books and say, well, we should have made $1,000, we only made 200, where's the other 800 at? They're asking each other that, not us. So you may want to reach out to them, and that may be an easy enough solution, because it sounds, the boosters, I don't know how much they really want to do it anyway. I don't know, you know.
It appears to me,
Go ahead.
it appears to me that this, let's say the softball association, they were talking the reason that they have the concession the way it is today, that somebody would order $5,000 worth of product, sell it, and they couldn't find the money. That's sort of silly. But what you do is you buy the product first, and you don't, you know, and when you sell it, you've got the money.
Let's leave that up to them, though.
Yeah,
That'd
but-
be their own internal thing. What I would think, we as a county, if they do work it out, is provide them with a decent facility. I think, is there only one concession stand out there?
There's two concession stands. That's something that Brian and I and Jessica are gonna talk about
I know
tomorrow.
things are tight, but
We'll put together a plan to move forward and on exactly
maybe
what you're talking about.
long-term is to have a nice bathroom facility. I hate to harp on that, but I think all our boat ramps and all our county facilities should have decent restroom facilities, and a nice concession stand would be nice. I don't know how they work it in Leon County, at like Pop Warner. I've been there with my daughter cheering
We're
before.
gonna look at some models and
Okay.
see what other people do in that.
Maybe we need to build another concession stand or something. I don't know.
We got portable ones.
Brian, the presentation he gave us was probably as good as I can expect. You can't find anything wrong with that, and you want to know where your money is, ask Brian,
That's
because
right.
he can show you
where
every dime
dime
of
is.
it. Yeah.
That's right.
But that's, yeah.
We'll come back to you guys.
Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brandy, how much does Walmart make?
I got it written down. Hold on. Brandy knows.
Yeah.
I thought you said Randy. Sorry.
All right. You can bring that back at the next meeting, maybe.
Looking it up right now.
I'm guessing it's a lot.
So on the utilities, Commissioner Merritt, you were speaking of millions of dollars, not the 400 and whatever thousands dollars of moving it by the high school intersection.
No.
So Do we have a plan for that?
I have a plan that we'll be presenting to you guys next week as part of the 1 cent sales tax to create a reserve for that, amongst a couple other things, and possibility of setting out a fund, or excuse me, at the end of the year, if we have extra revenues left over, between splitting it with the Sheriff's Department Fine and Forfeiture Fund to help support that, and potentially rolling it over into a reserve fund for that at the end of the year. So there's a couple of things that we're looking at, and that's some discussions during the budget process this year we're gonna bang out.
You know, my point was, and I'm not interrupting you, but
Well, you are interrupting.
if we know, well, it's discussion. If we know it's gonna cost $5 million, if we look up and say we got $4.5 million in reserve, we're taxing everybody too much, I mean, that's being disingenuous.
Right. No, I got you. I just wanted to clarify that point. So, besides the question I asked of Brandy, I guess I'll ask a rhetorical question. Who doesn't support law enforcement? I mean, I think what went on earlier this evening was sad, and also one of the comments that was made later this evening was sad. I don't think there's anyone living in our country, well, I can't say that, but the people that I know all support law enforcement. I support law enforcement. I mean, it's a given. That's our safety and our protection. And before I gave my talk or presentation, I had spoken with law enforcement in Wakulla County. Matter of fact, they called me. Wanted to know what I was speaking about. And I said, it doesn't have to deal with, it's not dealing with our local sheriff's department. It's dealing with a shift in the dialogue that I perceived as something that was wrong. And I explained where I was going with that. I was asked to say something or do something in support of body cameras, which I added a slide about body cameras. It wasn't in my presentation originally. So, I'm certainly sensitive to local law enforcement, but I really think that the dialogue has shifted, and what I hope to have created was the opportunity for people to first state whether they perceive that there is a problem in our country with the amount of unarmed, primarily minority population, primarily male, being killed by law enforcement. And I did a lot of reading and a lot of research before I made that presentation. There's a lot more slides that I could have put in there. There's a lot more that I learned in doing that research. I learned about some of the statistics about how much distance a law enforcement officer is supposed to give a person that they consider potentially dangerous. And it has to deal with reaction time, their ability to draw their own weapon before they're in danger. All of that was new to me. But what I had hoped was that we would start a dialogue. Is there a perceived problem? That's a small percentage, and I made an analogy to medicine. There's hopefully a small percentage of doctors who are not always doing the right things. It's statistics. It's what happens. But when we're dealing with loss of life, just as in medicine, we hope that there are ways that we can continually improve this. So when the dialogue shifted from unarmed persons being killed to the destruction caused by the riots, I felt that was a dangerous shift for our country to go down that road. And I think our country needs to really think about, it's terrible when a business burns and all its inventory is gone and pretend the people don't have insurance. But how does that compare to the loss of a life that certainly, in many of the instances we now know about, could have been prevented? So that was the dialogue that I hoped. I hoped that the dialogue would have been a little higher level than calling me names outside, but maybe it's a start. Maybe some of these people will go back and think about it a little bit. Maybe anyone who wants to really hear what was said can contact our county, and we can direct you how to listen to that segment of the program and hear for yourself what was said. And I think that for the most part, if not entirely, you'll agree that in no way was non-supportive of law enforcement.
When's it going to be on YouTube?
It's up. It's
Okay,
up.
so they don't need to go to the county.
Well,
they can look it up.
some people aren't really,
Okay.
Familiar with how to do
Assuming
that.
those people are tech savvy, though, they can
Yeah,
look it
they
up
can
on-
go there, and then they can, so which section of it is, how do they get to that section? Okay. So that's good. And again, I thank Bruce for that one statistic that
58 hours.
EE 251 that in 2014 there were 50 law enforcement officers shot and killed in the line of duty in the United States. I clearly said that. In 2013 there were 32 law enforcement officers shot and killed in the line of duty of the United States. One life lost in the line of duty every 58 hours due to shootings and traffic accidents and other causes while they're out doing their job, protecting us. So it was a hope to establish or begin a dialogue. I don't think anyone in their right mind would be against law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who won the bet, Heather? What was your number? Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out. Have a good night. Drive safely.
At 6:15.